Chrissy Metz joins us. How are you today?
Well, hi, I'm well. Thank you for that really sweet introduction.
You're shaking your head at me. Oh, that's true.
It's true, but I think I'm shaking my head because I'm like, oh, I did those things? I'm doing those things? Wow. Yeah.
That's good. And that's why it's so inspiring for people. But thank you for doing this. I appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure.
Before we started the recording, you and I were talking, and I do research for everybody that we talk to. And you've got some stories. Like you've been through some things getting to this day.
Well, it's interesting. I was the youngest child that my mom remarried and had my two younger sisters. And I was always sort of the entertaining diplomat. Like I could always see both sides of everything. I'm also a Libra, and yes, I love astrology. And so I'm always, I don't want anybody to feel bad, and I want to, make them happy. But then I found myself sort of looking outward to find validation through other people of their happiness, and if that would make me happy. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's not always the case, and it took me many, many years to understand that I have to come first as opposed to always trying to make everybody else happy and being a people pleaser. And I think that ultimately that's helped me with my acting because I have a sense of empathy and a desire to want to please people, but also in my adulthood, I've understood boundaries. Music was my first love, and it was something that I grew up with and around. And it was sort of pushed to the wayside. And my manager, who I met in Florida at an open call my sister took me to, I wasn't even there to audition myself. She sort of didn't encourage the music side. And she was like, you're really funny. You should do acting. And I was like, great. What does that mean? And then I got an agent, moved to LA, and I was like, oh, my life is starting.
Here we go, right?
Look at me, little girl, just from a small town, just trying to live her dreams. And then my manager said that my agent needed an assistant. Yeah. And I was like, that's great for her. That's so great. And I was like, oh, you want me to do it? I was like, what if she gets to know me and hates me and drops me as a client, and then I have to move back to Florida? Like, that's what?
And I read about you working with your agent assistant, or what have you. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, because you got gigs or a couple, like you started to work. So it's one of those things where on the outside, you seemed like you were walking the path to success, but still working as the assistant of your agent.
I'm always rooting for the underdog. And when we get mail-in submissions, I'm like, we should open up all of them, and we should help all the people who need to be helped. And I realized, like, I was just a girl from a small town who wanted somebody to believe in them. So I would do that. And she's like, you're really good at this, and people really like you. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not what I want to do. Like, I want to act. And she's like, no, I know, but like, you can go on auditions when you have them and then work for me. And I was like, okay, but I got maybe a handful of auditions once a year. Okay. And most people were getting 5-10 auditions, sometimes a day, sometimes a week. And so it was really hard. I always joke and say it was like watching your boyfriend take another woman out every day, but like to your favorite restaurant, at your favorite table, having your favorite dessert. And I was like, this is hard. Like, I'm grateful for the experience and I'm happy for those people, but like, I want to be doing that. And so Devon Franklin, who produced the movie Breakthrough I starred in a couple years ago, this always rings true now, especially on, in hindsight, but he says you have to learn to carry a crown before you can wear one.
Life always looks better looking back, doesn't it? You can look back at the journey and say, that's what that was preparing me for. I wish I knew it while I was going through it.
I know, because in the moment you're like, what is this actual hell I'm living in? It's crazy. So, and I was broke and living paycheck to paycheck. And obviously a lot of people are in this country, and it's so unfortunate. And I'm fortunate enough to like have pursued something that became a success, which I never thought would happen. But when I did book This Is Us, even I had to borrow money to go to the audition. I didn't even have enough money for gas. You have to have $20 at least minimum on your credit card or your debit card for them to process. I had 81 cents in my bank account. So I had nothing.
So that's true. I read that story. So legitimately, you had 81 cents and not enough money for gas before you go book a role that end up being life-changing and one of the largest roles ever. That was real.
Yes. Oh, it's so real.
Next on The Pulse, a panic attack at the movies, it changed her whole career path.
Oh, this is it. I'm gonna die watching The Expendables. With this is how I'm gonna go. And I was like, this is not cool.